I got an internship when I was a little bit older. I was probably like 19, 20. I got an internship. It was a regional internship at Def Jam. And I went to the Def Jam offices in New York, and I found out that day that 80% of the people at the Def Jam offices were white women. I was shocked. And it broke my heart. It broke my heart, man. It broke my heart because I was like, I thought this was black. I thought we was all black in here.
Hey everybody, Raphael Harry here. You're listening to White Label American. On this show, we dive into unique and diverse origin stories from immigrants and allies. Join us weekly as we break barriers, connect the past with the present, and peek into the future. Welcome to another episode of White Label American. Thank you for sticking with us from day 1 to year 6 of this podcast. I'm your host, Raphael Harry, and it's a pleasure to bring you each episode. If you're new here, welcome, stay a while, and invite your friend. There's always room for more listeners. We love to hear from you, so stay tuned for how to get in touch. Your support means the world to us. In this episode, we shall travel a lot in storytelling, in geography, and in so much more. I'm honored to have our super talented guest today. He's a producer. He's the producer of one of my new favorite podcasts that I've started listening to. He's an educator. He's a historian. He's a I've already mentioned producer. He's a podcaster, and he's also a researcher. I have the pleasure of introducing Baudelaire Ceus. How you doing today, my brother?
I'm doing good, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing well. It's just the heat, and I'm not too happy to be wearing the costume that I've planned to wear for a long time. Planned for cold weather, but I have to wear it now in hot weather for my trick or treating. So we'll see. I might have to.
You could just go trick or treating in a t-shirt or something.
I might just have to do that. But I like scaring the kids. That's why I love my costume. But it was meant for cold weather. Well, they're not here for me. They're here for you. So you work with an amazing podcast that I've been having a great time listening to. So how did you get started with your podcast, and can you introduce your audience to the podcast that you currently work with?
Yeah, so I am one of the producers of the Atlas Obscura Podcast. So the Atlas Obscura Podcast was started, I want to say in 2020. I came on board in 2021, and basically Atlas Obscura is a travel company. So they work with Stitcher, the company that I work for. It's under SiriusXM, but they come together with Stitcher to co-produce the Atlas Obscura Podcast. So when I came on, I basically was making like a few episodes a season, and I was writing episodes for our main host, Dylan. But it's interesting places all over the world. So Atlas Obscura covers, like, for example, in Paris, we wouldn't do an episode on the Eiffel Tower, right? Everybody knows the Eiffel Tower's there. We would do an episode on the place around the corner from the Eiffel Tower that if you know it's there, it's, you know what I mean? You're really gonna be like, oh my God, this is right here. I like that kind of, we say we highlight the more curious and interesting places around the world, right? The more lesser known places. So anyway, when I came on board, a lot of the places that the show had been highlighting up to that point, just by, I think, the staff and where they come from, a lot of the places were throughout Europe and throughout the United States, mainly histories that involved white people, basically. I came on board, and really the past like 10 years, me and my fiancée have been doing a lot of traveling throughout the Caribbean and Africa. So once I came on, I was like, well, could I do places like that I've been to? Could I tell like kind of like my own stories and even like other interesting African stories that I've heard? And my first episode I made was Great Zimbabwe. And
I know some of it, but that's one that it's always on my to read list because there's a lot that every time I touch on it, I always like expand my knowledge. Yeah, so that's excellent. I haven't gone to that episode yet, but I'll have to.
That's a good one. That's my first African history episode that I did, and I wrote it for Dylan. Then my next season that I worked on, I started writing stories, and when you're writing for someone else, you have to write in their voice, right? You're like, okay, how would Dylan is a white guy, and I'm writing like, how would a white guy say this? Because I'm talking about African history, and I want to say us, I want to say we, I want to say I want to use that kind of language, but I can't. So what I went to our senior producer at the time, and I asked him like, hey, would it be cool if I just hosted this, so that way it'd be just way easier for me to write? And he was like, yeah, sure, put yourself in the story. And I did that, and the episode performed well, as well as our other episodes. And over time, it now has become, I host almost all the episodes I write, and I try to do at least 50 to 75% of my episodes are African history related.
Nice. And I can feel it because my very first episode that I listened to, which while we're talking behind the scenes, you would recommend that episode. I was like, oh, I already listened to that episode because I just went through. I was like, man, there's a lot of cool stuff to check out here. I was just like, when I just saw that, I was like, let me check out this story. This story looks interesting. It looks too interesting to skip over or come back to later on. It was Priscilla. And
Priscilla's
to those
Homecoming
listening, please go check out, go on the Atlas Obscura website. Makes it easy to listen to. In fact, I might copy that format for my website. And
it is.
The Priscilla story is, oh Lord, I was like, man, that's how I knew this was going to be a podcast I'll be listening to. And that was just like, oh man, I got it. This is it. When I listened to it, I was like, we got a podcast here. We got a podcast here. So I appreciate you guys' work because it felt authentic when I listened to that.
Yeah. So for those that before you guys go run and listen to it, so Priscilla's Homecoming is a story about. It began with a story about a slave castle off the coast of Sierra Leone called Bunce Island.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't even really know about that. We know in America about plantations, but we don't know that Africans were taken from the inner land of Africa and moved to the coast in what is slave castles. There's a couple in Ghana that people know about.
Elmina
Coast,
Castle
Elmina,
is the most popular one in Ghana.
Benin, Nigeria has a ton. Cameroon,
There's one in Badagry.
So off the coast of Sierra Leone, there's Bunce Island, and Bunce Island now is like in ruins. And as I started doing the story, I spoke to a gentleman that works with the Sierra Leonean government, and the story was, we talked for hours about this. I could talk African history for, man, like you can see on my wall here, I got Patrice Lumumba, Thomas Sankara, Kwame Nkrumah. I could talk African history for days. And so basically our interview was great, but I found it was really academic. It was like kind of dry. You know what I mean? I liked it, but I'm wondering, like, for the listener, would they be able to follow this? But in our interview, Mel Garber, who I spoke to, he said, have you heard the story of Priscilla? And when he said it, we just kept talking. I was like, no, I've never heard the story. We keep talking. Then I listened back to the interview, and I'm like, what was he talking about? So I do some research, and Priscilla was a little girl who was kidnapped from Africa, from what is now the Sierra Leonean area, brought to Bunce Island 400 years ago. Today, her descendant lives in South Carolina, and the Sierra Leonean government reached out to her descendant for a homecoming. And so I reached out to Tomalin Polite, who is her descendant in South Carolina, and Tomalin agreed to do the interview. She also agreed to send me her family's home video of the trip.
Oh, wow.
So now I was cooking. Now I had interview with Tomalin, interview with Mel Garber, and the home video. So me and my editor came together, and we made what I believe is my best episode. I still listen to that episode, and I'm like, oh man, this is.
Every time I listen to it, I think I catch something new. So
and something that's important for people to know is all the episodes are under 17 minutes.
Oh yes, for such a short amount of time, I got a lot. I got so much from the podcast. So because I'm a long form guy, I do a long form podcast, but I do appreciate short form podcasts like that. Like, yeah, you
Mhm.
pack a lot into your podcast. So,
Yeah.
do you have anything?
One day I'll do a long form
Oh,
podcast, but
I got
I
something to
can't wait.
tempt you with afterwards. I
Okay.
won't share that right now. But
Mhm.
um, do you have anything anything new in the works that you can share at this moment that you would like to, tease to the audience?
Yeah, yeah. So right now I'm actually working on a series uh, that I'm beginning production on a series about Haitian voodoo.
Ooh, I love that.
So I'm Haitian. I grew up in a very Christian family, and so right now I'm kind of learning more about voodoo, and I'm going to be, yeah, documenting that journey and that experience. So that probably I'm literally doing it now. So that'll probably be something like next year. I think
Okay.
that people, yeah, stay tuned. I would say follow my website, bowknows.com. It's BAUKNOWS.com. That is probably the best way to stay um, abreast to that project.
All right. And at the end of this episode, you'll get another chance to plug that in,
Yeah, for
and
sure. Thank you.
we will. Yes, definitely. And then in the show notes, you have the website again. And yes, this we got to stay tuned, and definitely you'll be back on this podcast again
Mhm.
to once
Yeah,
it's ready to be out. We got to talk about it because I got questions, loads of questions for that.
yeah.
So we got to roll back time. I'm a time traveling guy. Some people know
Hmm.
about that. Certain parts of the streets know about me and my time traveling thing. And we're gonna go back to the very beginning
Yeah.
of Baudelaire.
Okay.
So you got beautiful names, and probably you're the
Thank you.
only person in the world with this name, except for maybe a character on what's the
A
map?
series of unfortunate events.
Oh, oh yeah, that's another
Yeah.
one. I was thinking more
Yeah.
of the vampire animation on Netflix. Damn, it's escaping my
Oh,
mind right now. But I think there's probably a character there who has
it's
that
named
one.
Baudelaire. Interesting. I didn't know that
Yeah.
about that one. So the my name comes from a French poet named Charles Baudelaire.
Mm.
He was a French poet in the 1800s. A really dark, kind of depressing guy, to be honest with you. He was like really, he's like a Edgar Allan Poe kind of writer for people
Oh,
who are familiar with Edgar
which
Allan Poe. He's
fits
kind
in
of
with
like
the Netflix vampire show I was thinking about. I
so.
don't
The,
know
the thing
why.
about Baudelaire is that because Baudelaire was so dark and depressing, that's why a series of unfortunate events, those kids are named Baudelaire because Charles Baudelaire.
Ah,
That's where the name comes from for them. But my name was supposed to be Rodney for the first
that
8 months
that
of my
is
mom's.
that is
Yeah,
that is
yeah,
that is quite the
yeah. It's quite a
opposite.
jump.
I don't see
Yeah,
that anymore.
yeah. No, I'm not a Rodney yet.
Yeah,
One of my really
we've
good
had
friends
a
is named
Rodney on
Rodney.
this podcast. Then
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and one of my really good friends is named Rodney, so it's great that we don't, he's Rodney, I'm Baudelaire. But my dad came at the last minute and proposed. My name was gonna be Rodney Saint Pierre Ceus, but my dad last minute said Baudelaire. And the reason why my parents agreed on Baudelaire is because Charles Baudelaire was taught in Haitian schools. Back
Mm,
then, Haiti had a very French curriculum,
yeah.
right? They learned a lot about French writers, and not that they were huge fans of Charles Baudelaire, but they felt like if I had the name of a writer, then I would be well spoken, and that I would have
Wow.
to, I would kind of have to live up to it. What was interesting though is that I became a writer before I knew I was named after him. I was already a writer. I found out I was named after him when I was like 15. And I told my mom, I was like, Mom, like, you have to tell me, like, teachers have been asking me, my English teachers love my name. I'm like, why? Like, what's up with my name? And she was like, yeah, we named you after a writer on purpose.
Wow.
So
Right.
it worked out.
It did work out. So
Yeah. And I love
that's
my name. And I also, when I was a kid, I hated my name too, as a lot of
I think that's
African.
something that a lot of us go through because
Yeah.
when I
Because
was a
I went
kid, I
to,
was like the only. Well, with the pronunciation that I had was Raphael, and
yeah.
there was no other Raphael around. So I don't
Yeah.
know. Every other person seemed to have their
Yeah.
namesake around. I used to be pissed.
Yeah.
And
And it's funny. So like, you being Nigerian, one of my friends in college, his name is Tunde.
yeah,
And
as Yoruba.
yeah. So me and him would talk all the time about this type of stuff. Like us, like African and of course from the diaspora, like are growing up with immigrant parents, like they would give us these names that they don't realize, like, no, Americans can't say this. You know what I mean? So it would be like, I would be in school, and I was the only black kid in my class until the 4th grade. So all my classmates were John, Matt,
Yeah.
Nick, you know what I mean? So it was one of those things where I felt like when I would meet people, I would think to myself, maybe one day I'm going to change my name to this. I found out when I was really young that you could change your name when you're 18. And from maybe 7 years old to like 16 years old, I knew, oh no, when I turn 18, I'm changing this. This Baudelaire thing's not going to last long. I'm going to change it. But then
Ah.
as I finished high school, I was like, I really like this name, actually. I'm going to keep it. And,
Yeah, I did
it
have a
remains.
plan of changing my name.
Yeah, I think we all do. It's like, because they're like, why did you give me this name? Like, why?
Ah.
And literally everyone, so my brothers are Eddie, Joe, and James. So I'm like telling my mom, like, well, why? Like, why did you?
Wow, that is, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. So they all have these names that
Yep.
people can
Okay.
easily say.
For that, I think you had a fair case there. If your brothers are
Yeah.
Eddie,
And then I got this. So I was pissed. But like, it worked out though. Now looking back,
well,
like
it did. But I mean, for me, I think when I was around, let me see. And audience, please let me know if you guys had plans of changing your names. What were the names you were considering? But
no, we're a community. The name
Yes.
changing people are a community. We
are.
they'll-
We are. Because I think I was closer to 10 or 11 when I came across the book of names that my elder sister had. I don't know where she got that book from. Book of names and the meanings. And that's how I got to find out that my name was Raphael was a Hebrew name, and our last name was actually Celtic, not English, which was the assumption. And so, and then I realized that our traditional names don't exist in those type of books.
Yeah, no.
But
No, they're not.
so that's when I came up with the name that I was going to eventually change my name into, which was going to be Ferdinand Stevenson. I don't know why, but it was
Ferdinand Stevenson, wow,
Ferdinand
yeah.
Stevenson.
Yeah.
That's Ferdinand Stevens or Stevenson. But yeah, I don't know why I picked those names, but I read the meanings and I was like, oh, Ferdinand. And then later on in life, well, one of my nicknames that in some parts of Nigeria to this day, there are people who only know me by that name is Fernando. I became Fernando, and some people just know me as Fernando. And if you go to those areas and you ask of me, they don't know me as Raphael or Raphael. But you say, I'm looking for Fernando. Oh, we remember that guy, Fernando. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that nickname stuck, but that's how eventually I ended up with Fernando. And it was later on that when I started realizing how rare my name was, I was like, oh yeah, I'm cool with this name. Yeah. And then when I eventually run into a namesake, somebody with my name, I'll be pissed. Like, man, why the hell you gotta be the person answering Raphael? Man, there can only be one.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be another.
Yeah.
Then I'll arrive in America and I'm like, I got a name that nobody else has, and I start, oh hell no, this name is everybody got this name here.
Yeah.
And then I run
well,
into
you got a Ninja Turtle. So you know what I mean?
I didn't think about that because I'm watching the cartoon. It didn't occur to me that there'll be people with that name across the world. It's like, it's just a cartoon that has that name. And then, that's the thinking I had. And then you arrive here and then you meet Dominicans, and Dominicans say, oh, we had a ruler who he was named Raphael. So we started naming all our kids after him. And I was like, what? Because I've made a family from the grandfather down, they all have Raphaels. And I was at the event. I was just like, man, I don't want to be here.
The Dominican Raphael is not the Raphael. He's probably the worst Raphael there.
He's the worst. But when I'm I was at a wedding, and on the bride's side, from her grandfather, father, brother, son, cousins, Raphael, Raphael,
Raphael.
Raphael, Raphael. I was like, man, it's
Yeah.
because when you just say Raphael, everybody's turning heads up like,
Yeah.
damn, who's man, come on, man. I'm like, just say black, just say Negro, Raphael, whichever, man.
Yeah.
I need something differentiate.
Yeah.
This is too
Yeah.
much. I'm going back to Fernando now.
Yeah.
that spirit is coming back again. So no, I was like, yeah, I'm Dominican. I gotta rule out Dominican Republic. I can't. Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
I'll visit one time. That's it. You guys out. I'm
Yeah.
picking beef
Yeah.
with you guys. I mean, I love the
Yeah.
food, but I had to pick a beef with you guys because too many Raphaels. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
my brother from Venezuela was like, oh yeah, we're in Venezuela too. It's a very popular name. I was like, God damn.
Yeah. Yeah. Next time, go to the other side of the island. Go to
Yeah.
Haiti. And there's not. I don't know no Haitian Raphaels. But,
Yeah, that's why I became cool. Hey, my Haitian people, because yeah, I'm like, yeah, I never met a Haitian Raphael until I meet one, and then it was like, okay, the beef is on now.
yeah. Yeah.
But if you're a Haitian Raphael, write in and let me know. As far as I haven't met you face to face, we're good. But if you join my Patreon, it's even better. There's no
Yeah.
beef. Oh
For sure,
man,
for sure,
but
for
I
sure.
love names, man. I love hearing about names, and
Yeah.
how when we're younger, we don't even think about. We don't, the thinking is so. The world is much smaller to us, so
Mhm.
you don't
Yeah.
even imagine how big it
Yeah.
is. But
Absolutely.
still staying with your younger days. What city of were you born in? And you've already alluded to your childhood, but also expand on what childhood was like in your city of birth. And did
Yeah.
you stay
So
in that city or did you move around when you were a kid?
no, no. When I was a kid, so it's funny. As an adult, I've moved a lot, but as a kid, I wanted to move, but it didn't work out for me.
Yeah.
So I was born in Stoughton, Massachusetts, which is like 30 minutes outside of Boston.
Oh, okay.
And when I was a kid, we're talking like the mid 90s, it was, even now, I mean, it's a pretty white place, but back then it was white. there was
Mm-hmm.
no, there was so few black families in the town that I didn't have a black classmate until the fourth grade. I think I said that earlier. And even when there was, so the first other black person to come and be in my grade, because there was a couple black people in grades above me, but the first black person that came in the fourth grade, it was a girl. And shout out to Whitney, she lives in London now. Uh, all the kids made jokes that we would get married.
Oh, wow.
They all would tease us like, "Oh, you two
Mm-hmm.
have to get married," right? And um, but like it was tough because not only was I not white, but I also came from immigrant parents. Like my mom didn't understand none of parent teacher conference, all these things that Americans did. My
Yeah.
mom was just like, it just didn't really. Not that I didn't register to my mom, it just wasn't so important. You know what I mean? Or like chaperoning on field trips. My mom never was going to do that. Like it was like my mom was like, I got work. I don't, you know what I mean? My mom was a nurse. Like my mom wasn't going to do none of that type of stuff. Um, Even like sleepovers at
Oh.
other people's houses, never, right? Um, but yeah, so like growing up, Stoughton was a very white place, so I think it kind of created. On one hand, I think I know white people really well
Mm-hmm.
today, right? So now that I have, in my later years, I'd say from like college onward, I've done a lot of exploration into uh, global African history, Haitian history in particular, and even African American history in particular as well. Now I feel like I have a well-rounded knowledge base because I love history. I even like white history. I just feel like white history is easy to learn because you learn it in school.
Mm.
But now learning black history, I feel like it's a much more I'm grounded uh, much more firmly than I was
Yeah.
before. I felt like I knew a history that I wasn't a part of, that I didn't have anything to do with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, growing up, I think a lot of those nowadays, it's funny. A lot of the kids I went to high school with are like huge MAGA people. Like
Oh boy.
a lot of people, they're like they. I was just talking to a friend the other day at a party, and she was telling me because she still hangs out with some people from our hometown, and she was telling me like, yeah, they get real conservative when when they get drunk. When we're all out, they get
Mm-mm.
really. And yeah, I don't know. It's something that nowadays I don't even. I feel like embarrassed sometimes when I'm around people from my hometown because I'm such a more evolved version of myself than I was
Yeah.
than the version that they knew of me, right? So it's like, sometimes I'll be hanging out with somebody, or I mean, I'll see somebody out, and they'll say like, "Oh man, you remember this time?" And I'm like, I don't really care about that time anymore. I'm
Yeah,
not
you're
that
supposed
that
to
version that
evolve,
version of
like you
me
said. Yeah, you people
exactly, and
grow.
that version of me in that story. I'm like, I don't really,
Yeah.
I'm not, not really. Not that I'm not. I mean, I'm not proud of some of the stuff, but it's like it's just, you know what I mean. I'm a completely different person now. I really feel like I've lived like a lifetime in the last
Mm-hmm.
10 or 15 years. You know what I mean? So if you tell me like, man, if I was so cool with you when I was 16, I feel like that was a completely different person that you were friends with. It's not.
It
That's not me.
was
No.
because
Yeah.
I mean, you've all the experiences have added to your growth, and
Yeah.
even with people that I grew up with, but I did move around back in Nigeria, but
Hmm.
I know people from different cities, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's difficult to have conversations with some of my people who last
Yeah.
time we were together was when we were teenagers, and
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you're trying to catch up and you're having a conversation.
Yeah.
Oh, and all they try to do is take you back to your teenagers.
Exactly.
They're like, "Hey, man, it's okay.
Exactly.
We don't need to go back then because
Yeah.
we didn't know anything. We thought we knew. I thought I was a superstar and all that, but I had an afro and but
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't like a joke. An older man told me back then was like, "Oh, this your hair is withholding the withholding
Yeah.
too much stuff in. Let it
Yeah.
out."
Yeah.
And maybe
Yeah.
that's part of why I went bald quickly. But um,
Yeah.
you don't realize with time you start realizing like, oh, that's why there were so many mistakes that were made.
Yeah.
But instead of staying back there, it's okay to laugh at certain things, but we can say, hey, look, these were the mistakes. It's good to move on. And like if I'm talking to
Yeah.
my younger ones, who are way too young to to remember stuff, I can tell her, look, when I was your age, look at the mistakes I was making. You know,
Yeah.
and it's okay if you made this mistake. You can learn from
Yeah.
it. You can move on, but don't think that just because I'm your uncle, I've never made mistakes in my life. I'm perfect because that was the messaging I used to get when I was your
Yeah. Yeah.
age.
From older
So
people.
I don't
Yeah.
repeat
Yeah.
that stuff that I
Yeah.
that they did to me, that most of my elders did to me. About
Yeah.
that's why I try to make it different for them. But
Yeah.
when it's my mates I'm talking to, I'm like, hey man, why are we still stuck in 1999? Why are we
Yeah.
stuck in early 2000s?
Yeah. And
Well, come on.
and to the second part of your question about like if I stayed there, so I stayed there until college, until like
Mhm.
my first year of college. I did locally, but then I went to UMass, which was about an hour away, and then once my third year of college, I studied abroad in London, and that was going to London was my third time ever getting on a plane, and
Ah.
like it was, and the only other time was in the eighth grade. I went to a wedding in Miami, so it was like yeah, a few hours. Every
Mhm.
Haitian has family in Miami, but I was going like the whole plane ride to London. I couldn't sleep because I was just so excited. Like I was like, I don't even think I slept when I got to London for like 24 hours. I was like, I need to be awake for every second of me being here. Like every person I talk to, like the people that know me from that period know me as so I was so I, even going to London, I had to take out loans. So I took out student loans, obviously for college. I took
Yes.
out separate loans just to pay to go abroad because I something like was just telling me I need to go. Like I
Mm.
need to, right? So I go and it was the probably the greatest experience in my life in terms of impact because
Yes.
it broadened my scope so much. I'd been to New York a couple times and I knew I wanted to leave Massachusetts, but living in London showed me I can live anywhere in the world. Like it showed me it turned me into like a global citizen versus a
Mm.
American citizen. Like right, like I met so many people from so many different places. Like Met a lot of Nigerians in London.
Oh, that's why I can't do London.
A lot of Nigerians in London.
That's why I can't do London. I went once and I was like, woo.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of
Piccadilly
Nigerians.
Square. My boy took me
yeah,
around there. I walked on that street and
yeah,
it's like
yeah,
there was a time bubble. I walked through that bubble and
yeah,
all I was hearing was only
yeah,
Yoruba and Pidgin English. I was like, God damn,
yeah,
I can't get
yeah,
away
yeah.
with anything around here. I'm all right.
Yeah, no. But
Bye. Take me back.
But like being in London was so transformative for me because I came back and then I started to want to go everywhere. Even now, I still have that. But
I understand
there's
that
nowhere I
itch.
won't turn around. Yeah, there was nowhere that someone would tell me like, "Hey, like, have you ever thought of going here?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's on my list." Like my list is long. You know what I mean? It's 100 places, and it's everywhere.
But
Is
the
somewhere
world
on
is
there.
big. There are lots
It
of
is.
places in the world. You know, like it's like when people ask me, "Oh, have you gone back to Nigeria?" And I'm like, "No, not since 2009/10." And it's not like I don't miss I miss some of the fun I had, yes, but it's not the same as when I left. I know everything that's happening. I'm still in touch with what's on ground.
Yeah.
But there's 54 African countries. And people keep saying, I want to go to Africa. I want to go to Africa. I'm like, yeah, why is the 53 not included? Because every time I talk to my Nigerian born, they keep saying, I'm going to Africa, which means I'm going to Nigeria. And I'm going to my part of Nigeria. And I'm going to my village. And I'm like, you're not really going to Africa. You're just going to your place.
Nigeria.
That don't count. So I need to go to other places. So I always appreciate when I see people traveling to other places, and it was kind of similar for me. You know, I moved to America, and then when I got to the Middle East, thanks to the Navy, I get deployed there, and right before Arab Spring happened in Bahrain. But I was meeting people from other places too, and there's something that gets triggered within you when you start meeting other cultures and interacting with other people, and there's artificial barriers that start to break within you because you're like, I had this whatever picture or whatever stereotype or whatever wall had been that you had set up within you to say, these people are this is that. I had this within me, but once you've had that conversation with somebody from that culture, doesn't mean they don't have bad people, doesn't mean they don't have whatever within them. But you've talked to somebody, you've interacted with somebody one-on-one, something starts to break within you. And you're like, because I took a taxi one day, I asked the driver, where are you from? He says, well, I'm from Morocco. I said, where do you eat around here? He says, would you like to eat where I'm going to eat? Because I was planning to go have lunch after I drop you. I said, I would like to have lunch where you have lunch. He said, are you sure? I'm going to eat Moroccan food. I said, I've never had Moroccan food. I said, okay, I take you to where I'll go eat. Took me some place which was supposed to be the slums, which was a very nice slum, if you are calling that slum. But they was trying to tell me this is where I'm going to eat. I said, do people die after eating the food there? No. Okay, let's go. That's how I tried Moroccan food for the first time. And he was so happy that I came with him. He was like, oh, don't pay. I pay for your food. I was like, no, I can't. He's like, no. I pay. He was so happy that I was willing to try. One day I just went around walking around. I saw some sign. I was like, okay, this look nice. I don't know. Walked in there, and I was wearing a Real Madrid soccer shirt. And the guy saw me at the counter. I was like, you like Real Madrid? I said, yeah. And he, oh, wait. And the chef came out, oh, Real Madrid? Hala Madrid. I said, Hala Madrid. That's how Real Madrid fans greet themselves. And, wait, and he, extra food for you. Oh, okay. He was Iranian. America and Iran are not supposed to agree, right? I'm American military. They know. It's not like they don't know. They know. But, hey, I got extra food. And when I got to my boy's house, fellow military guy, like, man, where you get this food from? I said, so I'm an Iranian place. What? Iranian? I don't know. The devil. Yeah, whatever, man. I'm eating. He's like, man, that food look good, man. Take me back there with you tomorrow. All right. So I took him there. I said, it's my friend. And he gave him extra food. But it starts to change. There's interactions like that. And, but guess what? Before I arrived, I was heavily Islamophobic. And even when I'm at a club and by myself, well, it was technically a pub, but they had late nights, and it was one place I
Yeah.
could escape
It's
from
funny. It's
regular
funny being
Americans.
Islamophobic, being Nigerian as well, right? Because there's a lot
Uh,
of
it's
Muslim
it,
Nigerians.
it's tied to way before the British came. We had a jihad
Yeah,
that's part of Nigeria's. It's not something that let me see. Long story short, there's some big historical fact. No, big historical events that
yeah,
are part of Nigeria's history. So, like
yeah,
before the British arrived, you had the jihad, the Sokoto jihad, which reduced Kirby, Benin, not Benin, like Benin.
yeah.
I'm
Benin.
terrible. I'm beginning to lose my pronunciations, but it's Birnin Kirby,
Yeah,
dash Kebbi, Kebbi, which was to the
yeah.
northeast empire, to the northeast of the country, which included present day Chad, um, Tichad, Niger, present day Tichad, Niger, Cameroon. So not
Okay.
Kebbi, Bonu is part of the northeast of Nigeria, and so the empire included Niger, Tichad, and Cameroon. But that was like the largest empire, what is considered northern Muslim, or what should have been northern Muslim north of Nigeria. And when Uthman Danfodio, who is who has is considered a different person in Mali, in the Malian manuscripts, who goes to Mecca, gets the blessing to perform the jihad, launches his jihad with Sokoto becoming the capital of which to the present day is the capital of the Muslim empire in Nigeria, or the Muslim leadership in Nigeria. Starts that
Mm,
jihad and creates a mighty empire that takes over a large chunk of what is now northern Nigeria. But his plan was to get to the ocean.
mm,
He gets defeated where he stops at Ilorin, where there's a defeat, depending on who tells you the story. To this day, the city of Ilorin, which is supposed to be a Yoruba city, has two kings: an emir, which is the Hausa king, and an Oba, which is a Yoruba king. So
mm.
it factors into the present day. But
Yeah,
the sad thing is that, well, it's not a sad thing, but the truth is that he won because he wanted to get to the ocean. But
yeah.
if you look into Yoruba states, Islam is like Muslim population is like 50%,
Mm,
60%, depending on who gives you the count.
yeah,
So he made it to the ocean, technically, but there are people who still talk in the terms of that we didn't win that battle.
mm,
So the polarization has always been there.
yeah,
The largest ethnic group on paper in Nigeria, you don't meet them outside Nigeria. You rarely meet those guys. They rarely travel to like America or um, the West or most countries. But like the wealthiest Nigerians are from there.
mm.
There are,
Okay.
but there's Christian groups, populations in those places,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and their stories people don't consider a story, but in the southern part of the country, people always see everybody from that part of the country as Muslim. So these guys kind of like knocked out the Bonu Kebi empire and made it so small that even the empire was Muslim, but this jihad now came and took over a large chunk and became a big thing. So people in the south, which when the Europeans would start arriving
Yeah.
officially from the sea,
Hmm.
became converted to Christianity and all that. It's like that counter narrative will now pop up, and you'll now start seeing that these guys are your enemy. And now, with all the stuff happening today, like the person causing issues on Southeast, who somebody I know personally, he is now pushing this narrative that the Muslim infidels, or the barbarians, whichever way your language you want to use. They are trying
Yeah.
to do a jihad against us. And then there are people in the north who are like using that language of the infidels from the south are trying to convert us and all this back and forth. But
Yeah.
the people who have ruled all these years could have smashed all this down by doing the right thing instead of using language of, oh, it's the West trying to tell us we should enforce homosexuality and all this type of nonsense, which was just distractions. Because when all these fanatics start popping up, they always use you not governing in the right way as um, to fire their to light up the fire, and
Yeah.
everybody has been taking advantage of that. But there's one last thing that I will use to wrap up my point. When I was a kid in primary school, which is like after elementary school, that's like your first grade, upwards before you get into um, junior school. Um, when we started reading, then our military rulers were all Muslim until we got into um, until we returned back to democracy.
Mm.
And the books that we use for reading in schools, they were called readers. I guess it doesn't take much to figure out. But the book that I was, the main story in my book in school had this warrior who was, I think, one of Uthman Danfodio's lieutenants, Gandoki. And the story of him conquering towns. When he conquers your town, gets everybody the king, if the king is still alive, and his leadership, kneel down, and do you accept Islam or not?
Mm.
If you don't accept, then your head goes off. That was what kids of between age 5 and are reading in class, where if you fail to get a word or two right, you get whipped. And you don't think you're creating a problem for the
Yeah.
future.
Intention. Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
is why I always push back on the narrative when I see people online just saying the West and all the time. Like, somebody thought this was a way to show domination. So this
Yeah.
is what's going to be in the school books. Kind of similar to the way some people want to insert God in our schools here, thinking that we'll change history to be about the Bible in America. And I'm like, I've seen this BS being
Yeah.
done in the wrong way in Nigeria because
Yeah.
I grew up
It's
with
actually
it.
done in Haiti a lot too. Because like my mom left Haiti when she was almost 20 years old,
Mm,
and basically the and this to get into the voodoo thing a bit, like the idea that voodoo is this like demonic,
yes, I grew
this
up with
like
that too.
that idea comes from uh three people: Christian missionaries,
Yes.
the French. After they lost the Haitian Revolution, Napoleon needed some sort of excuse to tell his other Europeans why he lost to these Haitians. They had the devil on their side, is
Mm-hmm,
what he would say. And then
mm-hmm.
American Marines that came to Haiti. The U.S. occupied Haiti from 1915 to 1935. A lot of the stories you hear about voodoo being demonic, voodoo dolls, all this stuff, the source of that is usually those Marines that were there. Those Marines largely came from Alabama and Mississippi
Mm.
in 1915. Now, just imagine how racist those Marines were. So, how can we give credit to anything they believed or anything they saw when they're occupying a black country? They're not gonna say, "Oh, this is actually a beautiful place and the people here were very peaceful." They're gonna say,
Oh,
"We saw them kill babies. We saw
I got
them."
I got one better. Uh,
Mhm.
who who in modern times has lost a war and came out and said, those guys are better than me.
Yes, exactly.
They were just, they
Yeah, the
just knew
better
how.
man won.
They were so good. They just
Yeah,
knew how to hit me, Papa. It
yeah,
was, but it's a lot easier to say, man, they got some demons fighting with them. They got some
yeah,
things I never seen before. They
yeah,
was using,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that sounds really cool to us back
Also,
home, because back home when we hear stuff like, oh yes, those Haitians were
yeah,
using voodoo, and we were believing that kind of stuff too when we heard, because we'd
yeah,
be like,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
they don't go
It's the
to
saddest
church.
thing. So I want to get back to that, but the this idea, if for a lot of people that have been to Paris that are listening to this, if you go to Paris, a lot of those monuments, like the Champs Elysees, right? A
Mm-hmm.
lot of those monuments in Paris were built after the Haitian Revolution. Napoleon trying to just change the narrative, right, of that era of France. Like instead of, because without those monuments, you would think of early 1800s France and think, oh, that's when you guys lost the war to Haiti. But now it's the time where they built the Champs-Élysées. They built a ton of different monuments around the city of Paris that still stand today. Also, the Eiffel Tower was built with Haitian money that came from Haiti.
Oh,
right. Like
that's one I didn't know.
Yeah. And in a Citibank, that bank also was founded with money that came from Haitian reserves. But that's a whole nother thing. We'll get into. Yeah. I'm gonna get into Haiti, it in the.
We're gonna have to do a whole episode on that.
Yeah.
But anyway, we've gone on a tangent enough. We're gonna come back to you. So one question I forgot to ask you before, because that would still have to take me back to your childhood. Before we move on to your adult, before we move on from your childhood. It's a question I always ask everybody, and I try to trap people because everybody's always like, "Oh, this is one question that's like, oh." Yeah. So, at this moment, what do you consider your favorite childhood memory to be?
Man, that's a really good question.
Hell yeah.
That's a really good. I'm gonna steal that and ask people that. My favorite childhood memory. How old are we considering childhood? Like when does, like, are we saying like under 16? Like, you know.
Well, okay, for you, let's do under 16.
Okay.
You asked nicely.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it. My favorite childhood memory probably has to be when around, like, I'll tell you, much younger than that, actually. I'm probably like around 8 years old. I got my first like big kid bike with no training wheels, nothing like that. And it was really nice. It was a mongoose. And I used to go to a neighboring city, Brockton, Massachusetts. I had my godbrother. My godmother lived in Brockton. And so that was my mom's best friend at the time. My mom would drop me off over there, and me and my godbrother, my brothers, we would ride our bikes like all around the neighborhood. And we would like go to the ice cream truck. We would, my godbrother knew how to fix my bike. So if I got a flat tire somewhere, he would just turn it over and be fixing it. We would go to like the park, you know what I mean? Play basketball and stuff like that. I think that's probably my favorite childhood memory. It was really nothing to do but have fun. You wake up and you're like, how are we going to have fun today? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's probably.
But it has to do with moving around. And
exploring.
Yeah, exploring. So it still relates to the present. That's why I love asking that question, because there's always a connecting thread to the present, one way or the other. And it's not like people plan for it, but it just happens.
Yeah, that's a good question, man. There's so many, like that era when I used to go back. That was my summers. My summers were in Brockton, riding my bike around every year. And I'd come back the first day of school, and the teachers would say, "Oh, like, what did you guys do this summer?" And people would say, "I went to Ireland. I went to Israel. I went to," you know what I mean? Because, like I said, all my classmates are white, so they would travel. Even if they traveled in the United States, they say, "I went to the Grand Canyon," and I'd be like, "I went to Brockton, which is 15 minutes away." That was my mom didn't have the kind of money to send me all over the world, And I used to be so jealous of these kids. I used to think, wow, I wish I went. Now I'm glad my childhood was the way it was, and I can travel now. You know what I mean? And now I have a son. I'm gonna have him traveling when he's younger, but it'll make him the man he'll be.
So I don't have a mattress of vitamins to sell you. Still, I've got something even better. Behind the scenes bonus episodes with full videos available exclusively on Patreon for just $3 a month. Yeah, that's cheaper than that fancy cup of coffee. Whether you're a capitalist, socialist, or however you identify, you can even be demure. Feel free to contribute what feels right. You'll be supporting a great cause, helping me improve content, and maybe even enjoying that seasonal pumpkin spice latte. Don't you just love pumpkin spice season? go straight to patreon.com/white-label-american-pod. Staying with moving a little bit older, but still a little bit still with the younger self.
Yeah.
What was the first thing you said to yourself, or first profession that you said to younger Baudelaire that when he grew up, this was what he was going to be?
Man, I thought I was going to work in the music industry. It's so funny now looking back how much I wanted to work in the music industry.
As
When I was a
what?
little kid, as like as like an A&R, so the A&R helps artists put the album together, like, when it comes to features,
Oh,
and
okay.
kind of does like the management of the albums, right? And of the
Hmm.
groups on the record label. I wanted to be an A&R so bad, man.
And how did
Really,
that come about?
because I was a child of hip hop. Like I when I was a kid, I loved hip hop so much, and none of the kids in my elementary school knew anything about hip hop. Now, white people know about hip hop, but
Yeah.
in the '90s, white people did not know nothing about hip hop, right? So, like, I used to tell them about, like, yo, there's this guy Biggie, and they'd be like, "Who is Biggie? Who is this guy? Why? Like, what are you talking about?" And like when Biggie died, I remember when Biggie died, and went going to school the next day or a couple days later. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, went to school a couple days later, and no one knew Biggie died. They didn't know what that even meant. Teachers too. Anyway, I loved hip hop so much, and it was a language that Black people in America to this day, I mean, obviously,
Hmm.
spoke. You know what I mean? And hip hop. One thing that, and I'm sorry, we be getting into the tangents.
That was
One
fine.
thing
It's fine.
that I really want, like, African immigrants and just the diaspora in general to appreciate about African Americans is hip hop, right? Because as a Black person from Nigeria, right, you could come to America and have a child here, and your child is immediately initiated into hip hop culture. You know what I mean? Your child's gonna grow up listening to hip hop, using hip hop slang, and no one's gonna question it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's almost like African Americans built the airport that we can land on. You know what
Mm.
I mean? Hip hop makes it's really comfortable to move around America when you understand hip hop and go to different Black neighborhoods. You know what I mean? There's a there's a base language that we understand that sometimes white people understand, but we know each other as
That's right.
Black people in America. And it's a specific thing that Black Americans contributed to the world that I think that as immigrants and the child of immigrants, we could do a better job of appreciating them for that. But
100 there.
I loved hip hop so much. I wanted to be a part of it. I felt like hip hop was so important and so powerful. I wanted to be in charge of some of the levers of hip hop. I got an internship when I was a little bit older. I was probably like 19, 20. I got an internship. It was a regional internship at Def Jam. And I went to the Def Jam offices in New York, and I found out that day that 80% of the people at the Def Jam offices were white women. I was shocked, and it broke my heart. It
Oh
broke my
man.
heart, man. It broke my heart because I was like, I thought this was Black. I thought we was all Black in here. Like, you telling me you guys have been making the decisions this whole time? Like, so that was the beginning of me falling out of love with the business of hip hop. I still love hip
Yeah.
hop, but like, it was around that time that I was like, I don't know if this is what I want to do. Um, and I also had a friend that worked at Rock Nation, and she was very like disillusioned. And so, like, talking to her, I was like, oh man, this is very stressful. Working in this business, like, I
Hmm.
don't know if this is the thing I want to do. So, but yeah, as a kid, I thought I wanted to be Dame Dash. Um, it's crazy to say now.
Yeah.
So I
Oh yeah,
thought I
yeah.
wanted to be Diddy this is back then.
No, no. Back then,
This is 20 years ago.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I was in Ibadan when More Money, More Problems
Ooh.
video came out,
Yo,
and
that video. It's one of
I
the best videos of all
remember
time.
the Christmas
Yeah.
coming up, and this was when weather still behaved a little bit like it was supposed to, and we only
Yes, sir.
have two seasons, the
Yeah.
rainy season and the dry season. So towards the end of the year, Christmas time. It's usually by Christmas time it's dry season, no rains. It's dry in most parts of the country and
Yeah.
very dusty.
Yeah.
Boys had that plastic looking leather outfit that Didi and
Yep.
Mace had
Yep. Yep.
on.
Yep. Yep. I know exactly the red one. Yep.
And you could tell this was fake because I was like, I'm pretty sure that's not what they were wearing. But whoever was importing it was making business
I'm
because
sure. Yeah.
bunch of boys, but I couldn't afford it and I couldn't get anybody in my family to buy for me. So I was like, dang. But then, boys, this was everywhere. That Christmas in Ibadan, there was this amusement park kind of that everybody would just go gather at. It was the only one in the city, so everybody would be there, and just all the boys baggy wearing that. Yeah. Imagine the heat. We're all wearing
What
that.
a time, man! What a time!
So
I wanted to be
when
in
people
those
act
videos.
like hip hop hasn't been influencing, I'm like, I saw it in my eyes. It had a huge influence because in that heat, boys wore that. So
yeah.
So
But even today, you see like in Afro beats.
oh
Afro
please.
beats is a uniquely
I was alive before all them boys who the top guys of Afrobeats were singing before it was called Afrobeats, and somebody said, "Hey, call it Afrobeats," and then so I saw it. I know when it existed.
yeah.
It was just called Nigerian hip hop, and then
Yeah.
that song with Drake
the thing.
happened, and then somebody repackaged it as Afrobeats. But like
Yeah.
I saw Burna Boy, I knew Burna Boy before he. Well, I not know him personally, but
Oh, you knew of him, yeah.
yeah, I knew of him, but we lived in the same estate. It's a long story, but he, all of them, Whiskey. I was in the Middle East, and they were playing Whiskey songs in clubs
Yeah.
in Bahrain. He was under Yoruba hip hop, so the biggest Yoruba songs were Fuji. They don't want to touch that anymore now. It's now Afrobeats. And I'm like, it's funny, but all that is hip hop influence because when Tony Tetuila and Two Face and all those guys were reigning, it was based on hip hop coming in and people finally acknowledging because even when Two Face said the N word on one of his songs, that was a huge debate on Nigerian radio. Like, Nigerians now say the N word. They didn't ban it on the Nigerian Radio Commission. Didn't ban that song.
Maybe Nigerians don't, but in hip hop you do though. So it's like that's what tells you hip hop is a universal language. It's not. Hip hop has no borders. You know what I mean? So I've
had somebody who grew up in Russia on the podcast, and he was in Russia during the when the Iron Curtain was still up, the USSR,
like the Soviet Union. Yeah.
Before he moved here, and he talks about when they used to get tapes from the black market, and his favorite artist to this day is still Tupac. So he was getting even the Soviet Union didn't approve of that. I know people in China. How come during the Olympics? How did they get a break dancing team? How did you guys know of break dancing? All this, they tried to stop it. It couldn't. It still came true. It beats all this.
In Haiti, you'll see Tupac on the side of a bus.
I remember in the early 90s, not early 90s, right after Tupac died, then there was a hostage situation at, I think it was the Japanese embassy in Peru. Mm-hmm. And the group that committed that did the hostage taking, they were called the Amaru Shako something, but they named themselves after Tupac. I was like, that. But so people can. There's some weird revising of history some people like to do sometimes online, and that's why I agree with the notion that social media is not real life because we have proof in real life of barriers.
But you had to be
broken.
there.
I mean, look at even Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson broke all barriers with music. He proved that and he's part of hip hop because I mean, how many rappers performed with him? So so yes, you can try to set up. I've seen the tape of Vladimir Putin complaining about we can't stop this thing called rap. So we should find a way to integrate rap into our government programs. He is
Mm,
addressing generals.
yeah. Yeah. That's crazy.
Because
I never knew
he's
that.
like, well, how do we stop this?
Yeah.
It's American propaganda. But since we can't stop it, okay, we should now look for a way for Russia, Russian
Yeah.
rap to be out there. So
Yeah.
yeah, you got to acknowledge that is the power. That's why I don't talk bad of. It's just
No.
it's a
It's
place of hate if you're talking bad about hip hop. It's just
yeah.
because it's too powerful. It's
It's way
black
too powerful. Yeah.
culture. It's unstoppable.
Yeah.
So nah.
Absolutely.
But although when I was, what, 12, 13, there was a guy who moved to, I was in Benin City, and the guy moved from Lagos to our neighborhood. And he came to play with us. We were playing soccer, and he came to play with us. And he was like, "What's up, my niggas?" And everybody stopped, and we're like, "What? What's up, my niggas?" I mean, we'll beat the hell out of him. Man, then we had only been told in school
Yeah.
the two highest insults were being called a nigger or the one in South Africa. Those are the two. I've forgotten what that one is called. It starts with a K, which
Yeah.
the whites use on the blacks there. So we're like, what kind of greeting is this? It's like, man, you heard of Snoop Dogg? Dog?
Yeah.
And then I was beginning to start in the evangelical ministries, and there were pastors saying, how can a man call himself a dog? And he's supposed to be a man. How dare he call himself a dog? He's not a man. He's not a man. God don't make you a dog. God made you a man. And I'll be like, oh, yes, amen. Amen. And all that in church. And yeah, get out of here with that bullshit. We're not about that. Right. So, have you visited Haiti? And you visited Haiti, right?
Yeah. In 2019.
So, what was your what was that like? Your first time being in Haiti?
Man, so I went to Haiti on a volunteer trip. I didn't go like with my family. My whole life, like both sides of my fam, like my mom was telling me, like, "Ah, I'm gonna take you to Haiti. Don't go with your dad. Like, go see where my family's from."
Mm-hmm.
And my dad's like, "Don't go with your mom. Come to Haiti with me, and I'm gonna show you where my family's from." And it ended up being that nobody brought me to Haiti. So what ended up happening in 2019 is I decided, like, I'm just gonna go for myself, and I'm gonna figure it out. I went to Port-au-Prince. Not Both of my parents aren't, neither are from Port-au-Prince, but I went on a volunteer trip helping. Uh, I mean, basically helped any way we could. We brought a bunch of supplies, but we also uh, installed electricity into this. It was a small business, like a jewelry making business. We helped this woman move from working out of a closet to now having like an actual, like, a storefront. Um, and and yeah, man, it. Also, there was a lot of like medical people that came, so they did like medical work.
Yeah.
But I was on like a small team, and I don't know much about electrical, but I could follow orders.
Yeah.
So I just was told, "Dude, put this there, put this, screw this there," that type of stuff. But yeah, it was, man, it was incredible. I wrote a book about it called My Journey Home. But it was so much more than I could ever have put in that book.
Mm.
Like I, I genuinely felt that feeling of like, oh, I could be related to any of you. You know what I mean? It was before I'd ever been to Africa. Um, I went to Africa months later. I went to Ghana, but uh, it was, man, it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. Like being able to just, I was also scared because my Creole isn't like so good. It's like I understand Creole really well, but I speak it kind of poorly. Um, my grandmother died when I was in the 8th grade. After that, I never needed to speak Creole to anybody.
Mm.
It just was. I only would listen to my parents,
Yeah.
but I would respond in English. So yeah, I was like really nervous. I thought people would like laugh at me and be like, "Oh, what kind of Haitian are you? You don't even speak. You don't even speak Creole." Like, and people were really helpful. No one ever did that. Everyone was just so happy that I came. Some people were just amazed, like, you from America and you came here by yourself? Like, why? Like, that was more so the response that I got. And um I I felt like I needed to do something um for for Haiti as a member of the diaspora. And I planned to go back to Haiti the following year and bring a lot of nurses. Haitians, run nursing.
Yeah,
If you know
that's
5 Haitian women, especially 3 of them are nurses probably.
that's
And
true.
so I knew I had a lot of Haitian nurse friends, and like my network had a lot of Haitian nurses. So I planned the following year to go to Haiti and bring these nurses, right? Because the problem with the team that I went on, I was the only black person. It was all white,
Mm.
and it was kind of like Christian based also, which
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really realize until I was there. And I don't know how it's complicated how I feel about that now, but it's a whole nother thing. And they also had translators there that they had to pay for.
Yeah,
And I felt like, if I come back with Haitian nurses, you guys don't need translators no more.
yeah.
And more of the money can go to helping people. But the following year, kind of like the turmoil began
Oh.
in Haiti.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I had to keep postponing the trip. And then COVID started.
Yeah.
And from there, it just, COVID starts. So it pushes it there that year. Then the following year after COVID, the president gets assassinated.
Mm.
And so from there, it almost became like I would go to Haiti myself, but I couldn't in good conscience bring a trip of people with me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm planning on going myself soon, but yeah, until things are a little more stable in the capital, I feel like it's hard for me to tell people like, trust
That's
me,
true.
let's go together.
Yeah, because it's one
Yeah,
thing to just go, and then you got to think about people's welfare, and you don't want to go scar people making that
yeah,
trip, because especially
yeah.
people coming from a good place, and then you go get people hurt. Yeah,
Exactly, exactly. I couldn't do it.
it's yeah. You can't say.
So the money that I raised,
Hmm.
because the book that I wrote, all the proceeds went to funding a trip to go to Haiti,
Oh, nice.
and
I need to get it. I
yeah,
need
to
to
bring
get that book.
yeah, so to that was the point of me writing the book. Is it funded my first trip, right? Like, because I raised money for the trip, and in that was like, okay, a lot of people in my network told me like, yo, you should write a book one day. A lot of people knew I was a writer already, so I was telling people like, okay, well, I want to go to Haiti. So if you donate over for every $20 you donate for me to go to Haiti, you'll get a copy of a book that I'm gonna write about going to Haiti after I get back.
Wow.
And that was how I funded going. And then when I got back, I was like, okay, cool, everybody. Now I'm raising money to bring a whole trip of people. I think we raised a few $1,000s, but because I was never able to go, and the whole complication of everything I just said to you,
Hmm.
um, when there was the earthquake in southern Haiti, uh, I donated all of that money to the earthquake. Um, my great great grandfather is from southern Haiti. Uh, my family doesn't really have much connection to southern Haiti now, but my great great grandfather was from there. So because of that, I was like, you know what, this earthquake, um, I'm sure I'm of course distantly related to a lot of people there that suffered from that. So I donated all the money to them.
Oh. Yeah. The- In I think 2010. That was when that great earthquake happened. Is it 2010? 20,
Yeah, that
20,
no. Well, I'm talking about
no,
there was an earthquake that happened a
no,
couple years
yeah,
ago.
I'm talking about that
Yeah,
one that
great.
happened. Was it 2009 or 2010?
2010. That
2010.
was
Yeah,
January of 2010.
yeah.
That earthquake also was kind of like the beginning of my uh,
When
consciousness.
no, when that happened,
Yeah.
the Navy sent one of the hospital ships, or both of them, the two hospital ships that we have, to Haiti. So they were like drafting sailors from all commands to go down there.
Mhm.
So it might have been a little bit racist, because I know one day I came to the command and somebody was like, "Hey, Harry, you speak French?" I was like, "What? No, I
Why would I say?
don't." But I'd gotten a lot
Yeah.
of that when I checked in, because somebody has said, "Oh, you
Yeah.
you you were born in Africa, so you speak French?" I was like, "What? No."
Yeah.
And you speak French?
Yeah.
No. I kept getting that. And
Yeah.
as soon as that guy asked me that day, I was like, no. I'm like, but your name's on the list to go to Haiti. I was like, to go to Haiti? Why am I going to Haiti? And
Mm.
like, oh, we need all the help there. So I was like, is it because you think I speak French, or is it because they need help? Which one is it?
Yeah.
But like, hey,
Yeah.
just pack your bags. So I was like, dang. Well, if
Yeah.
they need help, I don't mind going to help. But I hope it's not because you think I speak French, because I
Yeah,
don't.
because they're gonna be disappointed. Yeah.
So, but I know how to say "Je m'appelle Raphaël," "Comment tu t'appelles," and some basic French. But
Mhm.
no, I don't speak French. So I had my
Yeah.
bag packed up and I was waiting for the official paperwork to arrive, and it never arrived. And some white guy got sent instead from my command.
Mm.
It
Yeah.
arrived for
Okay.
him. He spoke
Yeah.
Texas though. I know he spoke Texas.
Mm.
And he got, yeah, I think he went for like 3 4 months. He came back.
No.
And yeah, and I know there was some girl who, when she was like a real spoiled brat, and when she came back, all I heard her complaining was about it. I couldn't shower. I was like, God damn. You know what?
Yeah.
I would have
Yeah.
loved to go if that's all you got to complain about.
Yeah. I mean, there's like
So
it's just the like when I was there, it was cold showers every day. It wasn't like
yeah, but
you know what I mean.
I
You
knew
weren't
the
taking that
assignment
long.
if I was going for something like that.
Also, it's
So
where you go.
yeah,
Yeah, and exactly.
so
And given
it's not
that
about. But
circumstance,
she was the type who was like,
yeah.
I gotta do makeup and all that. I was like,
Yeah.
why did you join the military? But I think she was rebelling against her parents. So yeah,
Then
I
there's
was
that.
like,
Yeah.
must be nice,
Yeah.
must be
Yeah.
nice. But anyway, but yeah,
Yeah. That
that's how I missed out on going to Haiti. But I guess
Yeah.
somebody realized I didn't really speak French, and it
Yeah.
wasn't like I was bluffing. And I guess so my name was
Yeah.
taken off the list, and I was sent to the Middle East. So
Yeah. The thing
yeah.
about that 2010 earthquake, that was also the begin. That was like another kind of turning point for me because that my dad was in Haiti at the time, and I remember seeing the earthquake on the news, like as it happened. My birthday's in December, so my dad left to go to Haiti before my birthday and was like, when I come back, like I'm gonna make it up to you, right? So I think he flew out like the day before my birthday, and the earthquake happens, and we don't hear from my dad. So I believed that my dad had passed away.
Mm,
So
wow.
I was like cried for days.
Dang.
Like I was convinced. Then one day I got back from school and my mom tells me like, no, we talked to your dad today, and he's gonna call. He knows you come back from school at 3 o'clock, so he's gonna call at 3:30. My dad calls. I talk to my dad, and my dad is like really somber on the phone. But I'm so happy. I can't
Yeah.
believe that he's alive. You know what I mean? I already had been convinced for 3 days that my dad had passed away. So I'm just happy to talk to him, but he's not. Something's wrong. And then after him telling me that he's okay, whatever, he tells me that my sister, who lived in Haiti, my sister Jennifer, she was a year older than me. Um, you know, uh, African and Caribbean parents. I had siblings in Haiti
Mm-hmm.
as well as here. Um, that she passed away
Oh
in the
no.
earthquake is what he had explained to me. And I'd only talked to her on the phone. I'd never met her in person. But every time she called my dad, if I was around, she'd be like, "Oh, put Baudelaire on the phone." Um, and she was supposed to come to America that summer and begin school in America. I was going to help her.
Dang.
I, you know, regardless of what I wanted to do,
Yeah.
it was going to be my job to help her
Yeah.
get acclimated. But yeah, but she went to the capital that day to get supplies to cook my dad's favorite food. Because my
Ah.
dad doesn't live in the capital,
Yeah.
but she was in the capital that
Yeah.
day looking for supplies to help him cook. So that changed him
Mm-hmm.
for forever to this day, and through extension changed me. I think because it then became like, oh wow, like I kind of had like a new like duty where I felt like, oh, I have to live for myself and for her.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It kind of like I have to have the impact of at least two people
Wow.
instead of for myself. Um, and then also like before that, people would make like jokes about Haiti or stuff like that, and they used to just, I'm like, God, whatever. I don't really. You're an idiot. I don't really care. Then I started to take it way more personal
Mm.
after that. You know what I mean? Especially, nothing hurts my heart more than like Black people, like African people, and all of us talking bad about Haiti. Not just because I'm Haitian, but because I understand the importance Haiti has to all of us.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Even if I wasn't Haitian, like there's an importance that the Haitian Revolution changed the world. It changed especially the African world forever.
It
You know
did.
what I mean? Um, and even like being Nigerian as you are, right? Like the majority of Haitians come from Benin, Nigeria, Congo. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I myself, had it not been for the transatlantic slave trade, would more than likely be Nigerian. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Or Yoruba, or you know what I mean, from Benin. So it yeah, that hurts to hear, but it comes from people not being educated. So there's also that. It's like, you know,
Yeah. Sorry, sorry to hear about the loss of your sister. Wasn't Yeah,
yeah, no,
it's tough, but I relate to that. Dad or uncle. I never knew my biological father, but
mhm,
I relate to having my uncle being around, my guardian, and having to go get ingredients of for their favorite meal. You got to go. You could get it fresh, made,
yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah.
from the
So
biggest city around or
you got to
something.
go
Yeah,
to the
so
market,
so
get the ingredients,
that's how it
and
goes. But
you know what? And speaking to trying to insult Haiti or Haitians and act like we're not the same or we're not people family.
yeah,
Uh, you see, your sister had to go get ingredients to make the meal. We do
yeah,
that,
yeah,
and I'm an Ijo. We're not, it's not close to Lagos, but Port Harcourt, we do that. Even Yoruba do it, Hausa do it, Tiv do
yeah,
it, TIV,
yeah,
Efik,
and you
everybody
know
do
what
their own
too?
thing, but there are still little
Yeah,
things that we do the same way. So,
yeah.
yeah, it's just.
And ultimately, the thing about also, and my last thing about the Haitian thing
Mhm.
is that Haiti does not have the power to stand up to whether it be the United States or the West, right? It just doesn't. It's a fact.
Mhm.
It has tried for 200 years. Nigeria does not have the power to stand up to these people, right? Until an offense to Haiti is an offense to African people around the world, until an offense to Jamaica is an offense to African people around the world, until an offense to Nigeria is an offense to African people around the world, we have no hope of overcoming our current situation, right? The kind of poverty you see in some parts of Nigeria. I was in Benin in December. The kind of poverty you see in Benin, we are doomed to it until we all see it as a collective problem, because we've been trying to deal with it individually
Yeah.
for at least one generation. A whole generation of people
There's
have been
I
trying to
can
solve the
solve it
problem.
myself. I don't need
Yeah.
any other person because Dangote is the richest
Yeah.
man in Africa. So I can solve it myself, and I'm like, that's not a factual
That's
thing. It doesn't work like
it
that. But
we've tried for so long. It would have already been solved if that's the case.
yeah,
So that's another thing too, is that like when an offense to Haitian happens, to Haiti happens, and Haitians all are up in arms, but I see other African people not offended, I know we still have so much more work to
yes,
do, because it can't be like, I've been a lot of places throughout the diaspora, as I've said before, and like I see that feeling I had in Haiti. I still have it when I go to Benin, or I've been to Senegal, um, and yeah, or even in Ghana, right, a non-French speaking place, but I still see that look that I'm like,
you recognize
I could live here.
you
You know what I mean? I
recognize it.
recognize
Once you
family.
see it, you see it. So
Yeah, you know what I mean.
when
Jamaica as well, right? So like, it's just it until we have that collective kind of feeling,
Mhm.
then like we're just it's I've reserved myself to understand we're doomed, that we cannot solve it individually. It has to be a
I
collective
agree.
thing as Africans.
It's something that I agree. I agree on
Yeah,
that because
yeah.
although
So
I
like that's
don't
the
believe in the one Nigeria project, but I
mm,
do agree because it's hard. It's why, like, when with the End SARS protest happened, it was more regional. It wasn't like the whole nation. Online they tell you it was the whole nation, but it wasn't the whole nation that took
mhm,
participated because there were people who were like, yeah, if you don't like this police guys doing what they're doing, send them to my part of the country. They will do. We need them here. The others were
mhm,
like, you people complain too much. The
yeah,
others were like, oh, when they were doing it to us, you didn't complain. You were enjoying it, and you see that it's like not my problem. It's your problem, and it's like, but it's the same
yeah,
problem.
yeah,
If Everybody's
Yeah.
now choosing to, okay, we are ready to complain now. Why don't you all
Yeah.
band together and
Yeah. And
make it a one time find the solution now? Everybody's come to the table. No, 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 no. It's you the only ones want to make noise now. You go. When we are ready, we'll
yeah.
come. And it's like, God damn. So we gotta go back to the circle again, and then
Yeah.
repeat.
And I'm confident. I think in our lifetime, especially in our kids'
I think
lifetimes,
our
that we're
kids are
going
the
to reach
ones who
that.
will.
Yeah. They will
I'm
have
more
that
confident in
understanding
our kids than ourselves, because
than
our
us.
kids are
Yeah.
more. Um, they are more like, I think they believe in challenging authority, not just authority, but they question what is called the truth. They
Yeah.
don't just say,
Yeah.
oh, because like my tribe, Ijo or Izon, literally means truth. But
Hmm.
I have elders who I can see them misbehaving, and just because they're elders, you don't say, okay, I see you literally misbehaving, so you can't question, you can't say, yeah, you're misbehaving. That's wrong. What you're doing is wrong.
Yeah.
But the much younger
Yeah.
ones coming up, they're like, you tell us don't do bad, don't do this, and then you do it.
Yeah.
So they are
Yeah.
now saying, no, you can't. That's not the example that you set for us. You beat us in schools, and you're saying you beat us for doing the wrong thing, and then you're doing the exact same thing. No, we're calling it out.
That you said.
So they're
Yeah.
challenging it, and it's the much younger ones. And I'm not even talking about the kids who were protesting. I'm talking about the kids coming after them, because those ones are literally challenging everything. They're throwing.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be them who
100%.
I put all the they give me more hope. So yeah,
100%.
but
Yeah.
speaking, you already mentioned Benin, and I just want one clarity there. So it's the Republic of Benin that you
The Republic of
yeah,
Benin. Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I
That's where
grew
I
up in
was. Yeah.
Benin City, so it just
Oh,
a lot of
okay.
people,
Yeah.
long
Yeah.
time listeners will,
You know one thing though about so I'm glad you bring that up,
yeah.
because when I was in Benin, right? So I was in Cotonou,
Hmm.
and I was in Benin for like 4 or 5 days, and most of the days I spent in Cotonou. But I wanted to go to Nigeria,
Yeah.
right? And I was talking to, I think it was one of my my friend in Cotonou, Chris Bell. Shout out to Chris Bell. He said to me that to get into Nigeria, I would need a visa.
Yes.
And he told me it would be easier for me to go to Nigeria if I flew to London and flew from London to Nigeria, in terms of like document
Which
processing.
I'm not
And
surprised.
that part, that blew my mind. That like
I mean, there's
that
another way. There's another way in which you could still go through the semi border, but it's just a few. If you're not on the video, you can't see what I'm doing with my hands. But yeah,
yeah.
yeah. There's my uncle used to work. He just retired from the Nigerian Immigration Authority, so I know how the system
Mm,
works at the semi border, which was a very juicy
mm,
posting for, yeah.
mm,
People literally fought to get that posting. Um,
mm.
that and the Nigerian Passport Office, Ikeja in Lagos.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So yeah, that was disappointing. But next time I go to Africa, I'll probably go to Nigeria.
okay. Benin
Yeah.
City is the ancient kingdom of Benin City. That's one historical place. I'm glad I grew
Mm,
up there.
mm,
I was a kid, and I didn't realize I was learning about human trafficking and all that
mm,
stuff, because
mm.
those guys travel. Those
Yeah.
guys
I actually did an
travel.
episode about the Benin bronzes,
Yes, I saw
which
Benin
rightfully
bronzes.
belong to.
There's
Yeah.
in Siloko Road. It's literally
Hmm.
on the streets. You just see them making it, and you didn't realize that. In schools,
So,
the way their school system works in Benin City, there are times when
mhm.
they touched on it, but you don't realize you're touching history, right?
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
a kid, you don't get the importance, but like the Oba of Benin is like the way kings are rated in Nigeria. There's a ranking of kings. So the Oba of
Mm,
Benin is like at the top of kings of
mm,
Nigeria, because he's one of the
yeah.
guys who the governor he cannot uproot the guy. But like Kano, which has one of the top kings, the emir of Kano is up there with the kings. But the governor literally broke the guy's kingdom to five. The guy who gets only 2 terms, and after 8 years, you're gone.
Yeah.
They can
Yeah.
mess up with you. The Sultan of Sokoto is like number one king for all the Muslims in Nigeria. It can be
Yeah.
uprooted. But Oba of Benin, he sometimes doesn't talk publicly, but when he says, if he says, I don't like this guy for this political party, all Benin people
Mm.
will vote against you. That's his they still love that.
Yeah,
They not like love, he's
yeah,
really revered. Benin people follow him to the core. It's a powerful position. So and that's I don't know if you're familiar with dang, I'm trying to remember the British raid that led to the 3,000 over 3,000
Oh yeah, yeah.
artifacts.
The punitive. Well, that's what my episode is
Okay,
about. So like the Benin bronzes were on tour to the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston,
yeah.
and I went to go see them, and I had all my recording equipment and whatnot, and I interviewed a man. This was like 2 years ago. I can't remember the guy's name, but I interviewed an expert on the bronzes who was in Nigeria for our interview, and it was just all about how the bronzes were stolen
hmm
and all over the world,
That,
and really just like
that was
how
taught in
ethical is.
schools. That version of it
Mm,
in Benin City, you get it in schools.
okay, and then I
But
went to the
the whole detail, you don't get like you get like the details of the killings,
uh,
like because it
yeah,
was during the Igwe festival, which is still huge to this day in Benin City.
yes, yeah,
So it's
yeah,
so like stuff like that, like even the mold around the Benin City, which is like at one point in time was the third longest wall around the city in the world.
yeah,
Stuff like that, you didn't realize you were around history because I
yeah,
saw it all the time. The red clay soil, Benin soil is considered red
mm,
soil, and the Oba's palace is made with that soil. The fence, even the buildings.
mm,
But now you have more
mm,
modern cement and all that mixed in there. But you see all that around you every time you drove around the palace and all that. But you are around ancient history, and there's a way they
yeah,
have it in their school system, but there's a way it's not also part of the school system because you don't recognize how much you were around
yeah,
world.
yeah, for
It's not
sure.
just you were around world history, and it was
Yeah,
until you start hearing in the news, you start because Benin are one of the people who, unlike other tribes, they've been pushing for their artifacts to be returned, not with Nigerian government,
absolutely,
which I like to
absolutely.
clarify. I like pointing out a
Yeah,
lot of times that it's not the Nigerian government, it's the Benin people. But there's
yeah, yeah,
also like when people say what's it called? Like Britain or like Germany has been much better at returning artifacts in compared to like Britain and other countries. I would give the Germans
yeah,
credit on that.
yeah.
But there's some clashes like
But
Benin. There's also clashes like Oba of Benin, and if like the governor who's about to leave, he has when
yeah,
he has a clash with the governor, he also blocks it from being returned sometimes because he'll be like, I want a new museum for the artifacts to be in there, which not everybody who's researching gets those information if you have to be like into the local politics. So he will now say,
mm,
no, 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 don't return it yet. I need a new museum for the artifacts to go in there. Federal government should build the museum. The state government is like, oh, we're gonna build the museum. All people from the world will contribute money. We are ready. No, I want federal government. So he's fighting with this. All that will now
yeah,
delay the artifacts from being returned because they've been
yeah,
ahead of everybody. They've been ahead of Yoruba people even for returning
yeah,
the artifacts. And then
yeah,
everybody's like, oh, delay. But on the headlines will only be, this is not a defense of Britain and all that for returning of artifacts. But once you start knowing all this stuff and you start talking to people within the scene, you're like, dang, man, just
yeah,
get the artifacts back because they weren't in a museum in the first place when they were stolen. How about you get it
yeah.
back
Well,
first?
two things, two things to that. First, because I went to the British Museum to see them.
Hmm.
I've been to the British Museum to see them a few times, but like I went to the British Museum to see them, and until the British Museum, which has the largest
Oh,
collection of
yeah,
them,
they do.
returns them, then we're talking about peanuts,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
right? Because the British Museum needs to be the one to start the wave for all of them to be returned.
Oh, yeah.
And then also the thing about the Oba, I understand what you're saying about him holding them up, but if you owe me a debt, it is up to me. I set the terms, especially if it isn't a true debt, if it was a robbery.
Oh, that's not a debt. Yeah, I agree. It's a robbery.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah. So
in
the
fact, what's even
terms
worse
of
than a
the
robbery? That is whatever is worse than a robbery. Call it that because
exactly. You know what I mean?
you
So the
violated
Oba,
every terms of agreement. They had an agreement in place, but you were the one
Exactly.
who violated all the terms and came
Yeah.
and ransacked my house and took
Yeah. So he
everything,
gets a
and
little
you've been
grace
making
to
money
me.
off it.
Billions. So
Billions.
you get some grace from me.
So
You could be a
you
little
should return it with
unreasonable.
interest. But
Ex-
yeah, but I just
just
like to remind people of that little caveat in there. Like, yeah, it's
yeah.
not, it's not, it's technically not mine because I'm not a Bini, but due to my growing up there and some people who I know, there's some information that always comes to me that I'm like that. You guys, because I know that if Bini receive the chunk, it's like it opens the floodgates. Because I know people in Yoruba side who are like actively blocking the
Yeah.
release because they're like everybody comes. They're like own like some of the largest art gallery in like the first and the largest art gallery in like Lagos. So I don't know if that's the reason why they're blocking some of the artifacts being returned because I've heard them saying, "Oh, corruption will not allow this come," but they're powerful people in Lagos. Like one person who I know in particular, but that's on the Lagos side. But Benin had
Mhm.
been way ahead of that person in doing that, and that person doesn't have a say on Benin territory. And but I know, like, if Benin starts receiving theirs, then Ijo can go for theirs. Ijo has no excuse for not collecting theirs. House has no excuse. Um, Everybody has no excuse because other people will
Yeah.
start asking, why are you not receiving yours? Why have you not made your case for receiving yours? Ethiopia has received some of theirs. Namibia has received some of theirs, except for the two tribes who have a specific case for why they don't want to be part of the government's solution settlement. I
Yeah.
mean, so yeah, I like looking into the little details for any case, but yeah, it's always fascinating what you find out, in these cases out there. But
Absolutely.
that's another one that we can stay on a
Oh
longer
yeah.
tangent on. But yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. For sure.
no, that's another episode that I'm going to. But Benin City, man, it's due to the traveling thing. If you go to, like, let's say this is October, end of October that we are doing this recording. Uh, Benin won't be happening right now because all the guys, girls, literally out of the country, the vast majority out of the country. You come around December, it's going to be full. Many have returned
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
all over the world. One last example I'll give before we move on. Um, Early 2000s, I'm in the University of Benin. I didn't attend, but I was with my in-law. I was at my in-laws' compound. They had a compound where students of the university lived at, and they had a phone business. So I helped one of my in-laws man the phone for a couple of days, and this old woman would show up. This was just when cell phones were introduced in Nigeria. The global
Mhm.
mobile cell phones were introduced in 1999. So not everybody had cell phones
Okay.
then. So this was 2002. Old lady, she'll be like probably in her 80s, shows up in Benin. They're called Edede for old woman. So Edede shows up. My son, uh, call this number. So she has a diary. She points to, this is the code, area code, the country code. I say, I don't think I've seen this one before. Which country? So I look. That is Serbia. Huh? You sure that's where
Hmm.
your son is? He said, "Now there my son there." I said, "Okay, just say they did." So call. So the trick is this: you dial the number, it rings, the person picks up. Hello? Oh, hang up. I'll call back. Okay, hang up, and then 2 minutes later, the person calls. That's my mom, right? Well, put my mom. I said, "Oh, okay." And she speaks,
Mm. Okay.
and that person will come. Give me the. I'm going to call this country code. Give me code. I say, okay, hold on. Let me look. What country is that? Because per the code you charge.
Yeah.
Uh, oh, this one is where? Huh? Oh, Turkmenistan. Nigerians are there. Oh, well, yeah, Bini. Anyway, all right. Uh, that was being. If you, I told one guy one time that the guy said he traveled somewhere inside of Libya. This was before the whole fighting began in Libya. And somebody was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I found some. There's some Nigerians. You from Nigeria? I know some Nigerians there." He was a Hausa guy. It's like, "Oh, I know some
Mm.
Nigerians. Come." He said, "Oh, he got there. They're Bini people." Benin people are like some of the first to go do the exploring and say, okay, yeah, all right, you guys can come.
Mhm.
They find
Yeah.
the guys who did the moving through the desert to tell people, then make it through the desert into Sahara Desert into Europe. It's like Benin people found that part. I don't know how. It's like Benin City doesn't have because it's the Edo State, which is the capital is Benin City in the present day, is part of the oil producing states, but it doesn't really have oil per se. So it's like people
Mhm.
from Benin just started traveling. I don't know if to go explore, and that's
Yeah.
how you have, which unfortunately is part of it, the human trafficking thing, because they'll be like, you want to travel? Okay, come. So like some families back then in the 90s, you hear families arguing that they'll say, my, why are you talking to me? My son sent, I have like three buses from Belgium, which is Belgium, Italo,
Yeah.
which is Italy,
Italy.
and
Yeah.
this one, you only have, how many buses do you have? Uh, you only have one. Don't even talk to me. And those guys everywhere. So like Brooklyn,
Yeah.
a lot of Benin guys are here. And so like when I hear their names, like I met somebody even in boot camp, and she had a Benin name. And when I was
Mm.
like, hey, hi, how are you? Where are you from? She said Jamaica. I was like, girl, you're talking to the wrong person. I know names. So where, where,
Yeah.
where in Jamaica do they have Osano, Osage or Osawo? And she's like, what? She's like, wow, you know that name? Well, actually, my dad didn't raise me. My mom did. My mom's from Jamaica. I said, all right, understood. I get it.
Yeah.
I'm not
But her
trying to
dad is
attack you,
from Benin.
but
Yeah.
you're from Benin. I know. She's like, wow.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more? I said, later on, I will. So,
Yeah.
all right.
Absolutely.
Oh, man, we went way over time, but we got to do a part two because I didn't get to ask you a whole lot of fun questions. We got carried away on the
Oh,
tangent. But
all good. Yeah. I
yeah,
got it.
before we wrap up officially, I gotta ask you one fun question because I did it. I got carried away on this one, so it's my. I take the blame. But
No worries.
from your travels, what's your favorite cuisine that you've had? You got to pick one and deny the rest, so that we get some controversy here.
Okay. That's a good question. Like my favorite meal I had specifically in Ghana, our second day there, we had this fried fish, and I believe it was jollof, Ghanaian jollof.
Fried fish and Ghanaian jollof. All right, writers. Sorry, listeners. Start writing. Get your pen. I will even give you his mailing address. You don't even need to send email. I'll give you his mailing address. Write to him. He picked
It
Ghanaian
was
jollof.
great.
So me, I've eaten jollof
Yeah,
from 9 West African countries. So and then
I've had Nigerian jollof too. I had a roommate in college who was
yeah, too
Nigerian.
late, too
Nigerian
late.
jollof
He
is
said
great
you
too.
heard him. He
Too
said
late.
fried fish and Ghanaian jollof. So it's too late. That's why I told him to say
Yeah.
one and deny the rest. He has denied every other jollof. All of you from
Yeah,
Senegal,
yeah, yeah.
Niger, Nigeria, Liberia, all of you writing.
So, all Liberian. I've had jollof from a lot of places. I'm telling you.
It's
But
too
okay, I'll
late.
take that. I'll
That's
take
why.
that.
That's why I
Yeah,
trapped him
yeah,
there. Got him.
yeah.
Get him.
Got him.
Get him.
Yeah.
But if you want me to pick your jollof rice, just sign up for my Patreon. Now I won't. I'll pick your jollof rice. You know me, listeners. So can't thank you enough for giving me your time. Oh, are you a sports fan?
Yes, absolutely.
So you with the Celtics?
No, absolutely. Actually, I'm not a fan of any of the Boston teams.
Oh, okay.
I have teams. Yeah, I have teams all across. I'm a Dodgers fan. They just won this World Series
Oh,
yesterday.
wow. Well,
Yeah,
congratulations.
yeah.
That was a big
Thank
surprise
you,
there. But
thank you. Also, I'm a Knicks fan.
wow, man, how you
Um,
go from man, that's a big man.
yeah,
That's a big contradiction right there. But
yeah,
well, it's a tough
and the
time.
New Orleans Saints.
New
The
Orleans
New Orleans
Saints.
Saints are my football team.
Oh
Yeah, so
wow, that is if
yeah,
I was a
and
betting
Man
man, I
U
would have lost
in
money right
football.
there.
Yeah, Man U also in soccer.
Oh God, this guy.
Yeah,
You go from
unpredictable.
up, down. The graph is just. Well, I mean,
The Knicks keep me humble, man.
yeah, well, I guess.
Yeah,
So yeah, but you got to have a team on the continent, man. You got to have a team on the continent for Afcon. I'm going to the
yeah.
next Afcon in Morocco, so You should.
Okay.
Yeah, you should.
Oh, you're going to Morocco for it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. When is it?
December 2025.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll see what I could do.
Yeah, maybe we'll
I'll see
create a
what I
new
could do,
podcast, something. That's a dream.
Yeah. December 23rd. Okay, dope.
Yeah.
That sounds like it's gonna be a great time.
It's always a great time. That's my bucket list. So that's it. I have to keep saying it so that I'll go.
Is it in like Marrakesh?
Everywhere in
Probably, right?
Morocco. Morocco has lots of stadiums, so they're gonna flex on everybody.
Yeah, of course.
They're gonna flex because they should have hosted
Yeah.
2015. It didn't happen, so they're gonna stunt because they'll be hosting. They're one of the co-hosts for 2030 World Cup. So yeah,
Oh, yeah.
they've
So
been
it's like
robbed a few
practice.
times,
Yeah.
so it's about time
Yeah.
they get their World Cup finally. So yeah,
Okay. All right, man. Well, I'll see you there.
yeah, great. And final question: what would you like to leave the audience with? It's your freestyle moment. Go.
Okay. I would say check out my episodes of Atlas Obscura. Again at bowknows.com, BAUKNOWS. Atlas Obscura generally is a great podcast, so you could just subscribe to it on all your podcast platforms.
I agree.
It's a lot of producers that contribute, and all of us make great episodes. But my episodes are just concerning the African diaspora. So if that's your thing, you could go to my website for that. And yeah, man, like I said before, African people are doomed unless we share in our problems and our successes, So if you are of the African diaspora and you're hearing this, got to expand your pride a bit. These nations and these flags we created are colonial concepts to some extent.
True.
And we didn't choose these borders.
Mm-hmm.
In Africa, and in the Caribbean, we didn't choose where we went to. We didn't choose the boat destination.
Mm.
So I am, of course, proud to be Haitian, as I'd expect you to be proud to be Nigerian. We could be proud, but our pride can only go so far. We should be proud to be Africans, because before there was such a thing as a Nigeria or such a thing as a Haiti, I was an African.
Well, technically, I rarely say I'm proud to be Nigerian, but I'm proud to be African. I'm proud to be an Ijo man.
Yeah, Ijo,
But,
man. Yeah, exactly.
I
That's the thing.
have love
Ijo,
for
yeah,
all
you could say.
Africans, all Africans,
Yeah, absolutely.
because I've never met an African who say, "Oh, you were born in Nigeria, so I don't like you," or that kind of thing. It's only online that kind
Yeah.
of stuff happens to me.
That is only online.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but everybody has shown me love.
Yeah.
I mean, in food, especially. That's why, hey, I'm a foodie. So it's why I always, if I meet somebody online and they say Pan African, I always run away from them because there's always my part of Africa that counts, nobody else. And I find it weird because I don't know if they understand the word Pan African.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm for.
Wait, what do you mean? Like you're saying, like the you don't understand the Pan African?
No, most people who I've met online who keep saying identifying as Pan African, and they always when I start talking to them, it's always, oh, my African, this is my part of Africa, or what I want for Africa is only me and my Africa. And I'm like, why is it calling yourself Pan African if it's this?
Yeah,
Not all the countries
that's not
in
a real
Africa.
Pan-African.
It's not everybody in Africa. It's only one people in Africa who are gonna benefit. Okay, well, I'm not. I guess I'm not for you. Bye. I have to go.
Yeah.
See ya.
Yeah. I would say that's not a real Pan African.
That's why I just walk away from them. It's a red flag to me now because
100%.
Yeah.
I consider myself a Pan African above all else, but I would say that also, I embrace the diversity in Africa.
You have
Right?
to.
Like-
You can. It's a diverse continent. It's a diverse place. It's like
I
saying,
wouldn't say.
well, if you don't eat, like last story I give, my crew, the leader of my crew in Port Harcourt used to say, you can't be a true African if you don't love big women with big butts. And at first we all agreed with him until we found out that the woman he loved the most, he was in love with, was the skinniest woman on our street. And that created a lot of confusion. Like, hey man, this is not the rule you gave us. So what does that make you? You're not African or what? There's diversity. You can't be
he's
saying
not
there's
walking
no
it
one
like he
rule,
talks
one
it.
size fits all for all of us. We have our albinos, we have dark skin. We have Nigerians who look like people from Afghanistan. They've been in Nigeria for like 3,000 years. They master the sun. They're from the northernmost part of the country. But if you're using skin color, you can't. Their eyes are brown. Some have green eyes. I don't know. I don't do the science. I can't. The science is crazy. But hey, so it's wild. But we'll talk about that, man. We'll talk about that. But
absolutely,
man,
we'll get more into that in the part 2.
Oh yeah, well, man, we're gonna have a part 3 and 4 with you. It's yeah.
Absolutely. I got time. So yeah, let me know.
So please check out this podcast. I can't recommend it enough. I'm looking forward to your new project and your book. Yeah, I gotta get that book too. So as my people say, Umbana for coming on the show. I like collecting thank yous. Do you know how to say thank you in your Creole?
Well, it's messy. So
Merci, okay, like French.
In French, yeah.
So yeah, merci.
Yeah. Merci en pile.
Yeah, merci en pile.
Merci en pile.
Merci en pile.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So yeah. So appreciate you always, and we'll see you at the next one. And keep the support coming in, listeners. Share with your friends. Check out our merch and donation options. Thanks for being a part of our journey. Thanks for listening to White Label American. If you enjoyed the show, please give a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app. You can follow the show on all social media platforms. Visit the White Label American website for links for donations, episodes, feedback, guests, merch, and newsletter. Don't forget to download the free White Label American app on the Google Play Store and Apple coming soon. Thank you for the privilege of your company.